and was not calming down. Bjorn suggested she test her powers on the death demon that stood ahead. Reluctantly, Einar drew her sword, which she swung with such force that the monster dropped dead. The others could not believe that she had managed to crush the demon with a single blow. Hopefully, the girl asked if she was still a warrior, but the young man countered that he was not just a warrior, but a great warrior. Hikiro remarked what a lovely couple they were. Alua agreed and suggested they go on. Finally, they came to a door, beyond which the last room in the fortress awaited them. The dwarf said that their journey was coming to an end. The mage reported that she was even a little sad. She now understood why other adventurers worked in groups. Bjorn thought only about whether the essence would fall from the keeper, since the previous 2 times they had had great luck. Suddenly he wondered if in his case there had been lives when things had gone easy and simple. He couldn't wait to find out what lurked behind that door. As Hikiro reached for the handle to open the passage, Bjorn noticed that it was of some strange color, and suddenly ordered the dwarf with horror to slam the door shut. But it was too late. The information window reported that the master of the Blood Citadel had awakened from a deep sleep. Once inside, the squad members were horrified to find that the guardian had changed. Now it was no longer the Horseman of Death, but a monster which is found only after the 6th level and rarely, and an advanced mutated version with intelligence and a name, the Vampire Duke Cambermere. Sprawled on his throne, he stuck his tongue out of his toothy mouth and rejoiced at the appearance of living creatures he said he hadn't seen in a long time. In general, monsters fall into 4 categories. Mutants, critters that do not change race or characteristics, but gain new classes, for example, Goblin Archer or Goblin Swordsman. The second is advanced. It includes monsters whose rank is above the average level, Death Demon. A rare category are opponents like the Corpse Golem, which can only be found in special rifts or mimics, which are difficult to find on a normal floor. And finally, the last are those with individual character and name. Advanced mutants are named monsters. Hikiro couldn't understand where a vampire could come from in this room, but Bjorn ordered him to shut up and keep running. Vampire Duke Cambermere, a rank 5 boss who can act out of the box, strong in both melee and black magic. Alua noticed that the keeper was an advanced mutant. Bjorn knew it too, because in the game, such monsters could only be found in rifts starting on the 3rd floor, even a person who had spent time in them. However, the enchantress couldn't understand how Bjorn knew this in advance, for he had definitely asked to close the door at the last moment. The barbarian was annoyed by her curiosity. Seriously, even in a situation like this, he asked again to run in silence, but Alua didn't run either. Then he explained that he just felt it. The red color of the pen. In the game, the guy tried hundreds of times to find the vampire, repeating after that blogger, but all attempts were in vain. Rewatching the video over and over again, he managed to notice a very small single detail, the color of the handle on the door. Suddenly the gnome stopped, asking if it was better to fight. After all, there was no escape from the tower while the keeper was alive anyway. Bjorn tried to explain that they had to get to the sunlight, but it was too late. Cambermere, who had taken on spiritual form, had already found them. That was why Bjorn hated magical monsters overly imbued. Alua ordered her companions to close their eyes and released a spell that illuminated the room with a bright light. When the effect passed, everyone was surprised to find that the vampire had disappeared. Spirit form is a type of black magic that vampires use. It allows you to move quickly, but your real body remains in place. There's just one problem with the help of release. The Duke can swap his shells at any time. If not for Raven's reaction, there could have been serious trouble. They had managed to gain about 3 minutes. Cambermere should be waking up in his room now. Suddenly Bjorn was horrified to hear that the sorceress had been injured. However, he didn't remember vampires having such an essence, which meant it was most likely the essence of another monster. Since each video ended before the player could do anything, he didn't know the full capabilities of the Duke. Right now the barbarian had a couple of ideas on his mind, but there was no time to sort it out now. First he needed to get out of here. Bjorn ordered his companions to get out of the tower, but the dwarf objected that only Alua knew the way, and now she was wounded. The young man said he knew the right way too, but Hikiro was surprised, for everyone present thought it was the barbarian's first time descending into the Blood Citadel. Bjorn really didn't want to seem suspicious, but survival came first, so he said that he had memorized the way and ordered to run after him. In principle, he wasn't lying, because he simply couldn't forget the map of the place he had been hundreds of times, though in a video game. Soon the exit showed up, which was a short walk away, but the vampire was already on his tail. Bjorn ordered him to run even faster. The Duke had almost caught up with the adventurers, but they managed to reach the sunlight, because of which the vampire had to hide. The guy knew very well the weakness of the spiritual form, and therefore was very glad that the sun had not yet set. The panting dwarf could not understand how the barbarian managed to memorize the road from the first time, because they were not distinguished by special intelligence. Einar stood up for him, saying that Bjorn was a great warrior, at least he would be in the future. The young man thought about what to do next, for it was nearing evening. At last he ordered Einar to carry the mage and the others to follow him. This did not please the bearer, for Raven needed rest, but Bjorn objected that they needed cover, so they should move back at least to the outer wall, and then ordered those who wanted to get out alive to gather. Until Alua woke up, Bjorn decided to walk around and look around. He only had one plan in his head, so it was decided to examine the statue they passed by. After blowing its head off with a powerful blow, he found what he was looking for, Tears of the Goddess, a disposable item, but it heals well and is useful against monsters with the evil attribute. Upon returning, Bjorn found that the injured girl was already awake. She assumed that they had escaped from the vampire, but he would surely return after sunset. The barbarian inquired as to what had happened to her, but the sorceress didn't seem to know exactly what had happened to her herself. She said that the effect was similar to pain sharing. She was very lucky that the ability was only rank 7. He asked how long it would take her to heal. The girl said at least 20 minutes, but then she would only be able to use the rank 7 spell 5 times. Things were not good. Bjorn asked if Alua had any solar-type spells, much to her displeasure, for it was not tactful to ask a mage about his arsenal. He knew about it, since he had read the lore, but he didn't worry about it. He was a barbarian, the pinnacle of rudeness, someone who didn't even care about talking to the king. Raven grudgingly informed him that he could use sunspots. A sun sphere is a rank 6 spell, which is like a fire sphere, but with the attribute of the sun. Bjorn asked if she could use the attribute enhancement at the same time as this. Alua said she would try it if she had enough mana, but would need another 10 minutes. Bjorn said that would buy the squad 30 minutes, and ordered the mage not to interfere, but to accumulate mana. She wondered why he spoke as if he had become the leader, but the young man objected. It right now, besides, who would if not him? Hikuro laughed loudly, saying that he trusted the barbarian because he had an eye for humanity. Night had fallen. The vampire had already appeared in the doorway. Cambermere laughed, asking the adventurers why he could not contain his bloodlust when he saw them. Bjorn ignored the taunt, ordering his comrades to prepare for battle. They would have to hold out for a full half-hour until the spell was ready. And unveiling its huge wings and claws, the vampire headed towards the squad. Bjorn ordered the porter to pick up Raven and run away. Everything is just like in the game, although they have a comparable intelligence score. The conversation ends in a couple of phrases. Finally, Cambermere rushed forward with his claws, but the gnome blocked the monster's blow with his shield, continuing to hold back the onslaught for a while. The first rank 7 essence is Counterbalance. It cannot be knocked down or knocked back as long as its feet are on the ground. A bonus comes with Amortization, a very useful skill for a tank. The barbarians decided to split up and outflank the monster. Einar was the first to attack with her huge sword, but without success the enemy deftly dodged, using wings for acceleration. But suddenly the vampire felt a strong blow from behind. Bjorn managed to hit the monster with his mace. In the next moment it seemed to the barbarian as if his arm was broken. Pain sharing. But the vampire didn't even seem to notice the consequences of the heavy blow. Suddenly, Cambermere's body turned into a flock of ravens whose sharp beaks swept toward the adventurers. Bjorn ordered them to block their attack. Hikuro stepped forward using the dwarf's second essence, Living Armor. All the birds that hit the shield scattered, leaving only bloody scraps. Bjorn knew that this liquid was dangerous, so it was better not to touch it. But it was too late. His comrades had already fallen under the influence. The sacrificial seal is another deadly skill of the vampire. Now Cambermere will receive a boost in physical stats, depending on the number of victims within a 100-meter radius. Sacrificial seal, Eternal Life, which increases regeneration in proportion to health points lost. And Master of Blood, which allows you to gain the skill of the target whose blood has been consumed. Vampires rely on these 3 abilities for special power in combat. The problem is that Cambermere can also use black magic at the same level, turn into smoke to dodge swords, transform into ravens to cause an explosion, or summon monsters using blood. The vampire is a high-ranked monster with truly frightening abilities. Suddenly Hikuro missed a beat, but Bjorn ordered him not to look away until he saw the Duke coming towards him. Now he realized why everyone was abandoning the game when they got to the 6th floor. The dwarf who was the main force was incapacitated. He and Einar were already exhausted, and the mage was still 5 minutes away from being reaped. Unable to find a better solution, Bjorn ordered his friend to take Hikuro and retreat back while he himself would stall for time. Reluctantly, Einar obeyed, and the young man threw away his weapon. It would not be needed,